Roll call, please.
Maggie Larson.
Here.
Carrie Clark.
Excused.
Sarah O'Brien Hart.
Excused.
Crystal D. St. Croix.
Excused.
Marcia Brown.
Here.
Bridget Jameson.
Here.
Carly Prescott. Here.
Welcome, everyone. Please join me in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I kind of like that there's way more of you here than school board. We have some people that are out sick, but welcome, everyone. Are there any comments by visitors this evening? Any comments by visitors? Yes. Please come to the podium, state your name. Be happy to hear you. Welcome, John.
Good evening. I'm John O'Brien. I know many of you. I'm from 57 Hickory Lane, former member of the school board for Ward 3. Thank you all for your service and for everything you do. It is a thankless job, a lot of work, so I appreciate it. These aren't prepared comments. I'm here to support my daughter, so I was like, I'm just going to take advantage. But very briefly, I just wanted to share a few of my very quick thoughts about generative AI. I recently formed a new company based here in Somersworth that is focused on generative AI solutions and services for companies. And so for the last 6-8 months or so, as I've been founding this company, I've had a chance to really reflect on, not just what is it going to mean to businesses and my livelihood, but the community and the society at large. And so when more of you are back and there's more of a quorum, I'll come back with more prepared. More of a quorum, right? So I will come back with some more organized thoughts. But I wanted to at least share an initial perspective and urge you all to begin to understand this new technology if you haven't already. I'm sure you've all heard of it, but you may have heard, similarities to the Industrial Revolution or the invention of electricity. And having been in this all day, every day, 10, 12 hours a day, talking with literally, as many people as I can get my hands on, I can tell you that those two analogies probably fall short. Second thing I can tell you is that it's going to happen faster than anybody could possibly imagine. And so when you think about what this means for education, generative AI, this idea that we're not programming computers, we're not using computers, we are human beings that work with machines that work with us on a level of human intelligence. And in fact, the machines that I already work with day to day are smarter than me. Like just from 2 years ago when ChatGPT got released to now, we are quickly getting to a point where not just the ability to generate content and videos and documents and things like that, yeah, that's great, but there is actual emulated intelligence that is exceptionally useful, and it's going to transform everything these kids do. So for example, none of these kids will ever be computer programmers. Most of these kids will probably work in jobs where they're interfacing with other humans, but also with computers every day in natural language. So literacy, and computer literacy is taking on a whole new definition. So anyway, again, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. I just wanted to come up here and share really quick how important that topic is, and hopefully you guys are all paying close attention. And by all means, if you guys ever want to chat with me and just bounce around ideas, I'm always here. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. Appreciate that. Are there any other comments by visitors? Yes. Welcome.
Hey everyone, Dave Witham, 10 Rouleau Drive, Ward 1. Not sure I can follow up too well to the John O'Brien Generative AI podcast, but I'll try. Thank you to the superintendent and the business administrator. I met with them earlier today and for a late add to the agenda, so I guess thank you, Madam Chair, as well for that. For a number of years, I was on the Somersworth High School Alumni Board of Directors. Hard for me to say this, but I was the youngest member of that board. My mom was the treasurer. My mom is now 90. The president was Connie Kretschmeyer. I think many of you know the Kretschmeyer family. Sadly, Connie passed away not too long ago. But for the last decade or more, the Alumni Association has been for lack of a better term, a very dormant organization. Nothing happened. Unfortunately, the Alumni Association, or fortunately, had some money, and before it became inaccessible, the remaining board members were queried and basically dissolved the organization. But with the goal to get that money that remained to Somersworth High School with a dedicated gift. Ideally for athletics, they thought about some gym improvements or a scoreboard, some sort of lasting item that could be in place at the high school. I know that the athletic director and your facilities director, Jay Lilly, did research the price of scoreboards. We don't have enough money to fund it in full, but we think we have a good start towards it. So there's just a little over $7,900 that that alumni board wants to donate for that specific purpose. It's my understanding that any gifts in excess of $2,500 need to come before the school board for acceptance. So if that can be done tonight, that would be great. And I'll be here to answer any questions if you have any at that time. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's a little bit later in our agenda, probably under new business. Yep, under 8.3. Wonderful. Anyone else? I really like seeing a lot of people here. Okay. So it is with great pride and excitement that the Somersworth High School Drama Club, Mean Girls, the musical, many of the cast and crew I see out here. Thank you for taking the time. And I just have a quick, statement that I have here for you all. And then I'm going to invite you up so you can remain sitting for now. From our talented seniors who took their final bows, I'm going to start. You're fine. We're good. We're all good. To the students just beginning their theatrical journey, each member of this production has contributed their unique gifts to creating something truly special. The dedication showed by our performers, led by Abby Grant as Katie Herron, Sophia Jeffries as Regina George, Faith Buzzell as Gretchen Wieners, and Emily Patterson as Karen Smith, has been nothing short of inspiring. Alex, perfect role. Chase, you were incredible. All of you embodied your roles so perfectly. Behind the scenes, there was a tireless crew that transformed the Black Box Theater into the halls of the North Shore High School. Our student crew has been the backbone of this production, from skillful stage management and sound and lighting and set construction. Thank you. It is clear that you are a dedicated team and you put in countless hours of collaboration and creativity. As our director, Miles Burns, has guided this talented ensemble through their journey, and we've watched students grow, not just as performers, but as confident young adults to take on new challenges. While this production portrays the complex social dynamics of high school, it's worth noting that Somersworth High School stands for values of inclusion, kindness, and community, the opposite of mean girl culture. Our students perform these roles while embodying a school environment where everyone's valued and respected. This makes me incredibly proud. To our Somersworth community, thank you for your continued support of the arts in our schools. Most shows were sold out or close to it. In these times when arts funding faces challenges nationwide, we ask for your ongoing commitment to keeping theater, music, and all creative expressions thriving in our schools. Your attendance and donations, advocacy ensure that future generations of students will continue to experience the transformative power of performing arts. Thank you so much. I am so proud. One last round of applause for you all. There we go. And Miles, if you'd like to come up with others, just to say a couple of words about how this.
Good off the cuff.
No. Are you real?
I just wanted to say I've been doing this a while, not with this group. I don't know. Check. At all sorts of different schools, and I still do after school drama clubs and stuff like that, and music direct all over. I've never had anybody reach out and invite an arts group to come get kudos. So I want to just say kudos to you guys and Somersworth for recognizing the importance of what theater does to people, and that is my goal, is exactly what you said: create confident young adults, even just extending past high school and everything else. So this has been I can't even believe it. So it just gets better and better every day. And they're trying and they're working and they're dedicated and they show up. And man, what else are you looking for? So anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys for having us
Thank you
today.
so much. Thank you, everyone. Yeah, thanks for showing up. I think that's perfectly. And you have your evening. I just appreciate you all coming here. So proud. Saw three of your performances this past weekend, and I just think that this is it. When we advocate for you, and we're up here kind of like with safety, well-being in mind, this is the stuff that is really important. And I've known you, a lot of you, since you were younger, and I wish you the very, very best. If anyone wants to come up and say something, you're free to. It's, you're on TV. And I don't know how many people are watching. Anything, but other than that, thank you for coming today. And anything from we guys? Yep.
Just congratulations. Again.
Small board, big crew. All right. Thank you. You don't have to stay for the rest of the meeting. You are welcome to. We have Coach Hodson. We have some technology stuff. We have an update from the superintendent. But all right. Thank you all. Bye-bye. That's the good stuff. Thank you all. All right, moving to comments by board members. We are a small, this is quorum. This is it. All right, seeing none. We'll move to the consent calendar. What's the wish of the board to adopt the consent calendar?
Motion to adopt the consent calendar as presented in the packet.
Yep.
Second.
Great. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. It's adopted. Reports. There's no student representative. We'll have one at the next meeting. So we'll jump right into our superintendent's report, which is the only report since we do not have a BA or city council update this evening. So take it away.
Katie Kraus could add the check receipt to the business administrator's report if it's respectful of David as when we get there. But other than that,
I'll add it to 8.3
Okay.
now
You
for
don't-
the,
not critical that you're here, David. If it's,
yep.
I did want to add that I shared with Miles this morning that obviously the student performance was what was so spectacular about the Mean Girls productions, but I shared that just seeing the family and friends and classmates in the black box together, you could almost do anything in the black box with that sense of community and the tightness. It was really, that piece of it is really beautiful. And I know Miles fully appreciates that aspect that goes beyond what the kids are doing to community being together around the arts, to which I just thought it was pretty special, the community together period. And I know John O'Brien has left, but I will share with him at some point or another that I have missed exactly one school day for professional development or meetings, and the second time I do that will be on Tuesday for an artificial intelligence conference, which I felt was pretty important up in Concord to get a better handle on that. It's difficult to be away from the district, but that's a priority to get a better handle on. Enrollment report in the consent calendar shows that enrollment is up from last month. Idlehurst requested more students because they said they needed more kids running around. So Idlehurst made a large part of that difference, up 7 students since last month, but overall we're up net 4. Fiscal year 26 budget, just for folks that are watching or in the audience that aren't, we are going forth to the city council with a recommended superintendent's recommended budget, which comes in under 6%. I think it's around 5.9. Our tax cap budget, which meets the tax cap request, is just under 3%. And there is a hearing, the city council hearing on Monday, April 7th at 6 p.m., in which the city manager will present the city side budget, and Katie Kraus and I will present the school side budget. And then there'll be a hearing and opportunity to speak either out of concern for property taxes or in support of any of those budgets, police, fire, or school, on that day, which I think is important. I think there's a lot at stake here. There's a CTC program at risk of being lost. There's 2 central office staff members and multiple teaching positions across the district, and potentially a district-wide social work position as well, contracted, of which we put forth a proposal that we share at half and half with the city. I know the city council has very difficult decisions ahead of them in this time, but we just want to make sure we're really clear about why we're hoping to get as much funding as possible for the schools. So we'll remind folks of that as it gets a little closer. I also want to remind the school board and the community that the district has been squeezing in time to kind of do this work around a reset direction forward that we spent 2 retreats on over the summer with the school board, as well as part of a retreat with the admin team. We've used some teacher workshop days. We've gathered survey data, and we've worked with teachers. Kat and I visited the schools after the last workshop. And we need to bring this back to the school board, and we need to bring this back to the broader community probably within the next few weeks, in the hopes that some of this could be tightened up before the end of the school year. So that's coming, and we'll make sure we have already several parents that I met with in the fall that have volunteered to be a part of this. We're looking at the more tightly defining the mission and objectives of the district. We're looking at settling on key areas of measurement so that going forth on a weekly, daily, monthly basis on our website and on the school board, we'll know where attendance is, we'll know where school culture is, we'll know where learning is, and we'll know how our matriculation data looks. Of course, matriculation data is more year to year than week to week or month to month. So that's all in progress and important. And as noted on the agenda, I also have a obligation and a requirement to share with the school board and the community where Somersworth School District stands on the New Hampshire statewide assessment system testing, SAS. We have plans in place, although they are not the ones we care most about, to be quite honest, in terms of how we look to proceed. We use the NWEA tests right now to really guide teaching and learning and practice, and we're evaluating right now this school year whether or not we want to move forward with NWEA, STAR, or iReady, and that will be our bread and butter testing assessment. But we are required to do the statewide testing assessment as well, and Somersworth High School is identified as an ATSI school. Additional targeted and support and improvement is what ATSI stands for and has been since 2002, specifically because of scores among students designated with IEPs and our free and reduced population. Maplewood has the same classification and has since 2022. Targeted areas or specific areas are disabilities and race. And also TSI, which is targeted supports and improvement, as opposed to additional targeted supports and improvements for race. Idlehurst Elementary School, also since 2022, has been listed as a TSI, specifically for special education students and for race, and also TSI on race. None of our schools are listed as CSI, Comprehensive School Improvement. I want to be clear that we meet the state requirements and expectations. We have plans in place, but this is not how we measure ourselves or drive our schools. Unlike No Child Left Behind 15, 20 years ago, where a lot more folks paid a lot of attention to a system that had many, many flaws, it seems for the most part we've moved past that. So we meet the requirements, and we can share more about that, but I have a responsibility to share that with the school board and the community. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, moving to our committee reports. I believe we only have budget and revenue, ed programs, but just a brief update from today. And policy, do we have an update for policy since we last met?
There is no meeting since the minutes
Yep.
that were in the consent calendar, but we do have in our packet.
Yep.
The review.
I'll give. We can speak to them during policy adoption. Let's do that. Yep. Okay. So budget and revenue, we met earlier in the week, and really for the primary purpose of having developing a contract with Rollinsford for the preschool tuition programming and tuition with them. That is in our packet tonight under new business, the tuition agreement with Rollinsford, and then the schedule of the policy, all the budget meetings, primarily with city council. So that was a shorter meeting, but that's what we had the purpose for. So ed programs and community outreach, we had a meeting earlier this evening. Yeah, Board Member Jameson?
Yeah, so I don't have my notes in front of me, so feel free to jump in. But we did talk about attendance, which, hovers roughly around where the state average is. Somersworth High School has increased their attendance by
35%?
What was the number?
37%.
Mr. Lewin? Do you have it?
37%.
37
From
point
last year
something.
at the
Yeah,
same time, yeah.
So that's great. Enrollment is increasing, enrollment's about the same, but we talked about the kindergarten numbers look high coming in. We're hoping that's because of outreach that the school and programming have been doing, but we're not really sure. We talked about free and reduced lunch. We're really kind of at the mercy of the state again. That's a common theme. We did discuss that. What was it? Maine, Massachusetts, Vermont all have statewide free lunch. And then we also talked about upcoming special education program approval and things like that. So there's good stuff on the horizon. What else, Maggie?
Yeah, that was looking at programs in-house for special education could have
Yeah.
been one agenda item.
Yes.
And any other agenda item, but they're looking for Maplewood and Idlehurst to have that there to be able to maybe mirror that in the middle school and high school at some point as well
Yeah.
for
Yep.
alternate programming and special ed programs.
Yeah. And I think looking to it, potentially sending out some messaging about community programs and community events in the spring. So all the different graduation dates and stuff, getting a cohesive
Yeah.
message.
Yeah, the message
Yeah.
of calendar, what's going on in the calendar for the spring. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of bullet points in ed programs. Thanks for sharing.
Anytime.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that, really. Okay. All right, so we're going to wait for the policy kind of description so we can go into our presentations. Superintendent Shea, would you like to introduce the first one?
Yeah, we have two presentations this evening, and first up is New View. Tim, I was not able to make copies for you, but you're able to share those. If you have them, it's terrific. As many of the folks present are aware, but for folks who may be watching at home, the board and then interim superintendent and business administrator and central office team revisited our tech systems and hired New View to kind of do an inventory and assessment of where we are, and then a 2-year contract. This is the first of those 2 years to upgrade our systems significantly and help us figure out a path forward on technology. It's been a really good, productive relationship. Appreciate the different perspectives we've gotten from Tim and from Chad, who's our IT, remote IT director working with a couple of different districts. So we'll turn it over to Tim. Thanks.
You guys want me to pull up the slides on my laptop, or do you have the slide deck? Okay, sure. Thank you, Katie. You do.
Any audio with your presentation?
No audio.
Okay,
no.
and the microphone.
Perfect. Excellent. Good evening, everyone. I'm Tim Martin with New View Advisors. As John mentioned, we partnered with the district back in June of 2024 to turn around IT from some major challenges into a reliable foundation that supports teaching and learning. At New View, our mission is to empower K-12 schools with strategic IT leadership co-managed IT services that enhance security, efficiency, innovation, and ultimately support student outcomes. We bridge the gap between technology and education, ensuring schools have the expertise, vision, and operational continuity needed to create future-ready learning environments. Tonight, I'm going to walk everyone through the progress that we've made so far since the last meeting in June. I'll cover where IT was when we first arrived, the improvements we made, and how we're setting up the district for long-term success. I promise I'll keep this brief, and I will not geek speak anyone here. Try to keep this as plain English as possible. So the state of IT before NewView was here. This is from a slide that I presented back in June of last year, so there's nothing shocking here. But basically, we performed an assessment back in early 2024, and IT was in a rough space. It was outdated, it was inefficient, it was lacking security controls around data, and certainly not serving the district's needs. Some of the key challenges that we found when we came in to take over the IT was about 8 to 10 years in kind of neglecting in technology. The district was about 8 to 10 years behind. The support model was more of a reactive than a proactive model. It was resulting in downtime and some unnecessary costs. The district did not have its own IT keys to the kingdom, meaning that the district had no control over its own technology. So since then, we've come in, we've restored ownership and control back to the district. The data center was cluttered with a decade worth of equipment in old boxes. And the ultimate impact on the district for this is students and teachers were being slowed down, and learning and classroom tech was unreliable. When the network performs slow, nobody realizes it, but it's having a day-to-day impact on teaching and learning. So moving on past there, just to touch on a little bit of the budget savings. The existing vendor that was here before us was looking to increase prices by about $65,000 a year while continuing to deliver subpar services. Instead, we came in, we modernized IT without raising any costs. Not only saving the district money, but essentially improving the service quality and security of the network. We estimate about $100,000 in IT support savings between the software cost reductions and avoiding the contract increase from the previous vendor. There's some numbers that we need to clarify, but that's pretty much our best estimate at this point. We've also added a lot of software tools, security tools. We've centralized all of the IT for the district and the documentation, the knowledge base, and a secure online portal. And that was a big win there for us. So the accomplishments, this is the big slide of kind of what we've done so far in the past 10 months. The big one was really restoring those keys to the kingdom for the district. So the district does have full control over their own IT at this point. There was all of the documentation was scattered between Word documents and Excel spreadsheets and living in a lot of people's heads. And the first thing that we did when we came in was extracted all of that institutional knowledge and put it in a centralized place for the district. So the district does have full control over that now. We developed the first tech plan draft since 2018. Provides a clear roadmap to the future, and we're working with the district right now to finalize the plan. We closed a decade-long technology gap in just 1 year, setting the foundation for long-term stability. Some of the other notable items, I won't go through all of this. I do have a page list of kind of geeky accomplishments here. If anyone wants to go through it all, that I'll hand out to everybody, maybe just to have in your file for later. But a couple of the notable ones that I'd like to call out are, let's see what I have here. The enhanced cybersecurity for the district. I mean, that's huge. So we launched an ongoing email-based staff-wide cybersecurity awareness training. That's a mouthful. But this is a key step since most security breaches are human-related. Clicking on that wrong thing, not identifying a phishing email, not knowing how to set a proper password. So our ongoing cybersecurity training addresses that and really empowers the district to be more aware, which means they can be more secure. Streamlining the IT infrastructure. So we launched phase 1 of our major project last summer. That was a major overhaul of, this is some of the geeky stuff, the servers, the networking equipment, the firewalls, and a lot of the software tools to modernize the district's IT. And I sort of thought about, how to compare that to, imagine if we asked the students to do their work on a decade-old laptop with outdated software. It wouldn't be fair, and that's really what we're dealing with district-wide at scale in terms of the technology infrastructure. So another couple things here that I'll call out, and I won't go into all of it, but we eliminated 2 classrooms worth, or 2 large box trucks worth of e-waste, which is just old computers that were 10, 15, 20 years old laptops, all that stuff. It was occupying an entire classroom. I have some pictures later. We can maybe look at that. And it was also clogging up the data center in the IT office, kind of making it a little inefficient to get anything done in there or even move around in the room. So cleaned up a lot of that. We still have some final improvements planned for the summer that I'll talk about later, but we are in a much better place now for daily IT operations. One big thing I want to mention here is all of these accomplishments that I've talked about and all of the accomplishments in these documents that I'll hand out, it's not just NewView. This is a partnership between NewView and SAU 56. Sal Lanas was a huge asset to this process. He's been an amazing resource, really bridging the gap between the day-to-day IT stuff that happens and kind of the bigger picture back office work that we're doing as a team. So I want to give kudos to Sal. He's been incredible, and he's an amazing asset to the district. You hear? Yeah, so I will hand this out. It's 2 pages. Yeah. So those 2 pages go into detail of all of the real techie, geeky, nerdy stuff that we had to do behind the scenes to bring all this together. So I'll let you all kind of dive through that, and feel free to ask any questions.
Let me know if there's any questions on the board side or.
I just have a thank you, which is all the email security and multi-factor authentication. Thank you. Having had, been phished in my law firm, I greatly appreciate the security.
Yeah. You're welcome. That was one of the first things we did when we came in. Super important. So next steps and future plans. Now that we've caught up on 10 years, we're shifting to more of a proactive IT strategy, meaning that IT will never be a roadblock to learning. It's a foundation that we can build upon now going forward. We'll collaborate with the district to establish a North Star technology vision, aligning IT with the district's long-term goals. Our focus will move from an infrastructure focus to driving student outcomes through technology. Obviously, cybersecurity is going to remain a top priority for us, with continued improvements to security controls and training. We will continue to maximize the budget using E-rate and other cost-saving strategies, expanding staff training and support to foster a culture of continuous improvement, supporting an execution of a one-to-one student device initiative to enhance learning, and above all, our goal is to ensure that IT remains stable, secure, and cost-effective so it supports the district's long-term success. Yeah, just lastly, before I wrap up, I just want to acknowledge that there's an incredible team behind me. It's certainly not just me and Chad. We have a whole group behind us that has supported this transformation that I have listed up here. As the saying goes, many hands make light work, and that couldn't be more true here. It's been an awesome partnership between NewView, SAU 56, and especially Sal, who's been critical in supporting daily operations. And this is the kind of collaboration that makes real change happen. That's all I have for today, and happy to take any questions.
It's not a question, it's a comment. My husband does all this tangentially. I don't do it. I will bring this to him as a souvenir from my meeting. And I also just wanted to let you know that this is like the first thing I think that I had to deal with on the school board, and I didn't want to go into it blind, and so I think I had shown him some of like the costs and prices, and he has not worked in storage in a long time, but I just want the public to know that he was very impressed with the prices, with the money. He said, that's a good
Love to
deal.
hear that.
I said, I love that. So thank you.
That's awesome. You're welcome. My email's up there too if anyone has any other questions at all.
Now, this presentation, the public can see it, right? Maggie? Okay.
Yes, this is in our backup materials, I believe.
Can I have you just show the pictures? Because you referred to them early
Yes.
on, and they are still attached to your slides. And I think for the public to see, if pictures paints
Oh,
a
there we
thousand
go.
words.
Yeah, and this is
Thank you.
This is really the beginning. I mean, so what we don't have is pictures of the server racks that will look like a museum come at the end of the summer. So I'd love to take the board for a tour of this room. But if this is just an indication, a little bit of kind of what we were dealing with, it was kind of havoc in there. I mean, to get to the servers, those are servers behind that cart, and there's machines connected to it. I mean, it was spaghetti and craziness everywhere. And when we started looking through the gear that was in there, some of it was 20 years vintage and belongs in a museum. So that's the server room right there. This is another view of the server room. Having cardboard boxes in a server room is a big no-no. It creates dust, which gets into the servers, which then could cause them to fail. It could start a fire. We cleaned a lot of cardboard out of there, a lot of metal boxes. And this was actually a classroom that had been commandeered by old IT e-waste. Now, I'm not sure how long it was in there for, but we got 2 box trucks full and got it the heck out of here and got it recycled and distributed to some groups. And yeah, that's all I got. Yeah, you're welcome.
I just want to say one thing, just for the board's sake, and just confirmation and a reiteration. The work that Newview did, phase 1 being last summer, phase 2 coming this spring, should be thought of as foundational to the tech system. The plan was to get the foundation in order and then move as aggressively as possible on teaching and learning, projectors, devices, one-to-one, making sure that all that we've got set up foundationally is deployed as effectively as possible in the teaching and learning realm. Our Assistant Superintendent, Kat Crosby, is working with the tech integration team, as well as Chad Enstrand remotely is participating in that. So they're putting together a plan right now that'll be presented. It makes sense to bring it to the board at the end of the school year, just what our intentions are now that we have this foundation in place, the North Star that Tim referred to. Some of that's going to take money, and that wasn't built into this budget. And the budget environment that we're now in may delay some of that progress. The high school in particular stands out as working with technology that, especially for high school students, is dated, and they do their best without it. But just a reminder that that's separate from this foundational work that has happened thus far and is still to come and might be a little slower than we had hoped. Thanks, Tim.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's just to go off the one-to-one. We've been speaking about this for a long time, but I think that it's not just essential, but it's actually like one of those expectations, not just from the community, but as I was looking into it for accreditation, to have a really strong supportive technology so students can use computers. I know, listen, like when they're young, put them outside, let them do it. But if we don't have real good, solid, up-to-date computers for our students, I think that's something to look at. So if we're looking at the end of this year, could it be, I guess that's another conversation if it's possible, but yeah. Thank you, Newview. Wonderful. All right. Thank you. Moving on, we have another one.
Am I allowed to speak from over here?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I think because there's another presentation coming. Steve Hodgson, of course, is pretty regular at our school board meetings, filling us in on what's happening in the fall sports, filling us in what's happening in the winter sports, what's happening in spring sports, often being recognized himself as a coach and athletic director. But this is an opportunity we asked, it makes sense, and it's probably not both parts of it, but a part and a half. We wanted to have the board get a picture of athletics and extracurriculars in general as critical aspects of student engagement and student success, and percentage participation, particularly as you get into the middle school years and high school years, is pretty critical. This will be predominantly an overview on the sports side with a little bit of extracurriculars. Is that a fair assessment, Steve? And we can kind of revisit as we go forward, but that was the spirit of it. Thanks, Steve.
Welcome.
And I think Chris Tebow and Jim Lampron are going to join in.
Good evening. All right, well, good evening. Thank you for having us. I'm here to give an update on the state of the athletic department at Somersworth Middle School and Somersworth High School, and then the principals will kind of jump in on the extracurricular part of it. Currently, we are mostly classified as a Division III school due to our enrollment. We do have a couple of sports that participate in different divisions. Volleyball is in Division II. Hockey, because of our co-op with Co-Brown, is also in Division II, and our girls soccer program, due to our small numbers, we petitioned down to Division IV so we can use the middle school students so we can even have a girls soccer team. Most schools in our division are kind of going through the same situation that we're in. We have some rosters that are healthy and a lot of participation, and some rosters that are critically low. To the point where we're kind of worried about some programs, maybe not being around in the next few years. I do have our roster sizes on one of these next couple slides. So we have about 410 students in the high school. We have about 125 different students participating in athletics. Most of our students do play multiple sports at the high school, so our rosters total about 288 student athletes, which is a pretty decent number.
I think it's 77%.
Yeah.
I looked it up.
Quick math.
That's,
right?
yeah.
I was going to say 75, but okay. So most of our rostered athletes, though, there's a couple sports that kind of predominantly take up large chunks of that, which I'll show you in a second. The high school roster sizes, if you look between football and volleyball in the fall, that's 84 kids. And then the other sports all combined really don't even have that. Boys soccer is in a decent place right now we have 20 kids. We don't need to bring up, we actually stayed in Division III. We don't need to bring up any middle school students to have our team, but we do not have enough kids to have a JV program, so it's varsity only, which is unfortunate because a lot of, sometimes the freshmen or some of the kids that aren't quite as skilled don't get to play in the season, really. They only are at practices. Girls soccer is one that we're worried about. Our roster this fall had 11 high school students and 5 middle school students, and those were all the way down to 7th graders and 8th graders. Per NHI policy, we can use 7th and 8th graders. We've had a couple kids moving on that graduated. We have a couple kids going to private schools, so I don't know what our roster is going to look like next year. We're actively recruiting players. Coach Swallow is always contacting kids about coming out for the soccer team. But the hard thing with that is you're asking girls to come out for soccer that might not have played for a few years or might not have played at all, and you're saying, hey, go play a varsity sport, good luck. So it's a tough situation for them. Golf is a critically low number right now with one. We have one senior boy who graduated. Good news, we have 2 8th graders coming up who are beginning golfers. I don't know if they're going to compete on the championship level yet, but they're going to at least go out and golf with Coach Girding and then hopefully improve their skills and then be able to represent Somersworth in the state tournament in a year or two. Our basketball numbers are pretty good. Boys, we have 3 teams, varsity, JV, and freshman. Girls, varsity and JV. Unified basketball is always healthy, 15 kids. Hockey, we have a hockey roster of about 19 kids, but only 6 of them are from Somersworth. Indoor track with 8. Winter cheer with 7, and our winter cheer team just placed 4th in the division, so they're moving on Thursday night to compete in the state championship against the D2 and D1 schools, so they're small but mighty. And the spring sports, we haven't started spring sports yet. The start date is March 24th. We do have signups. So these are last year's numbers. Baseball had about 23. We could only have a JV program because we brought up 6 middle school students. Softball, we had 25. This year for signups, we're probably down to 17 or 18 for softball. So it doesn't look like we're going to have a junior varsity program. And then boys track and girls track are about the same numbers. We have about 40 to 45 kids combined for the teams. SMS has about 282 students. About 90 kids play sports there, but that number's deceiving because we have quite a few kids that play for programs outside of the middle school. So we have a large population of football players and cheerleaders actually that play youth cheer and youth football for outside entities. We don't offer those at the middle school. So they are participating, they are our students, but they're not included in these numbers. The roster sizes for the middle school teams, volleyball had 23 girls. We had a co-ed soccer team this year, which was the biggest they've had in a few years, 17 boys and 4 girls. We are not in a league for co-ed soccer, so it's hard to get games because of our co-ed status, because most teams around us are either male or female, so it's hard to get teams to play us when we have a combined team. Boys basketball, we had 30, and we actually had like 45 kids come out for the team this year, which was huge. Girls basketball is at 22, and then the track and field program is pretty strong there. They have about 41 kids total. Our feeder programs, and this is kind of one of the problems that we're running into right now. I'm talking about the feeder programs that are before middle school. So football does have Pee Wee football. Soccer does have rec and Rosso soccer. A lot of our soccer program kids in rec and Rosso, especially Rosso, are not Somersworth students anymore. There are a lot of like Berwick and South Berwick and Rollinsford students. Cheer has Pee Wee cheer. Volleyball, we don't have a feeder program, so the first time that these kids are really exposed to competitive volleyball is when they get to middle school. Coach Hanlon does a great job with those kids. Basketball, there is Biddy basketball and rec travel basketball. Hockey, we have nothing in Somersworth. There's Dover Youth Hockey and there's Rochester Youth Hockey, which we have a few kids playing. And baseball, we have Little League, which the numbers are critically low in Little League right now. I was just talking with Mr. Witham, and even our senior league program is now not going to happen in Somersworth this year. They're going to have to outsource and go to Rochester because lack of parental involvement. We're down to 1 team. So we're hopefully going to start the middle school baseball program, knock on wood, next year again. Sorry. He's going to, no, you're going to coach. So track, we don't have a feeder program. Softball, there's nothing in town. We used to have this robust softball program in town with 4 or 5 teams per age group. That has gone away, so now if kids want to play, they have to go play in Barrington or Rochester. And golf, we really don't have a feeder program either. So as you can see, half of our sports that are offered in town, we don't have feeder programs for them, so the first time that they ever play them is either in middle school or in high school. I've come up here a bunch of times and talked about the value of athletics. Athletic participation has immediate and lifelong benefits, socially, mentally, emotionally. Kids who are involved in athletics achieve higher grades. They have coaches who are looking out for them. They have an athletic director who's checking their grades all the time. They have less discipline referrals because if they're getting in trouble in school, they can't practice or play that day. Also teaches lifelong lessons. You know, I came up here with the volleyball program this year when we were recognized, and I talked about their resilience. And that's something that a lot of times in society right now, the kids really aren't learning that. So with athletics, just winning, and you're going to win and you're going to lose, so you're going to have to learn them pretty quick how to deal with it. And also how to dealing, you know, some like time management skills, how to interact with people. They're not just sitting on their phones, they're not behind the computers all day. They're actually out interacting with their teammates, with coaches, with fans, officials, and their opponents. Some areas of strengths and some weaknesses in our athletic program. Our strengths obviously are we have some dedicated student athletes. Obviously they wouldn't happen without them. Our community is we have a rich tradition in athletics here. We have, if you go into the gym, we have banners full of state championships. We've won 6 in the last 6 years in different sports. Our coaching staff are amazing. They're caring and committed. They jump through hoops for these kids. They go above and beyond the normal expectations of a high school or middle school coach to make sure that these kids have successful seasons. And we also have multiple athletes participating in college. Out of this senior class right now, we have 5 who have already committed, and we actually had 2 or 3 others that could have played, but then they had better offers financially from other schools where they weren't getting recruited by. Some of the weaknesses, we've talked about this all the time, the pay for play. So the teams still have to pay for officials and stuff, which is a big burden on these programs, especially if you saw some of those numbers. If you have 13 girls trying to raise a few $1,000s for their soccer season for the officials, that really taps out those kids. Which is part of the third one on there too. The parental involvement in some of these programs is very low. We do have some programs that have 7, 8, 10 parents helping out. When we do have programs there, it's one parent who's expected to do all the fundraising, all the booster stuff, and it's tough to do. So, and then obviously the feeder programs that we talked about were a weakness in this community as well.
Steve, can I just stop you because you have more going on and things like that. Has there ever been a discussion or a policy or in the history of Somersworth to encourage or require to be a part of a sport once for a year, for a semester, something like that?
We've kind of batted that around a little bit about, maybe having a PE credit for participation in a sport. It never really came to fruition.
Yep.
That would be a huge change in the program of studies and
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, we're looking at ways to get kids out.
Get that. Yeah, and then the other thing for the pay to play, I've been here long enough, and I don't know what it is right now, but somewhere between like $40,000 and $60,000 to cover all sports to be able to not have the boosters or the students pay to play, which means they have to cover the officials.
Yep.
The officials. Ice hockey is very expensive, but everything else is thousands, per. So we've always had it on our docket, but we've just never had the funding to be able to get it over there. Because the other thing is too that we're not required to have sports or arts in our school. Like there's no requirement mandated that we have to do this. There can't be a world that we would consider. Due to anything else, reducing this. But what you're showing here is kind of like. There's really great things, and like how do we kind of get in the middle? So hopefully this presentation will maybe put on the website. Yep, in the center.
I don't want to make it a discussion, but would it be fair to say that if the state of New Hampshire adequately funded other educational opportunities, that it would be easier for the district to cover some of this?
It'd be very fair to say.
Okay.
I think we would be able to do that tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I know you have more to cover, but I just want to say, so we're on that slide, cover that. But thank you.
Our facilities, for the most part, are in great shape. Football and softball fields and the middle school gym could use some major updating. Soccer field was redone a couple of years ago, and we had a lot of compliments this year about, especially even October, because usually in October that's when the field's getting chewed up. We had teams and fans coming and said it's the best field that they've seen. I wish I could say the same about the football, but we're getting there. The middle school gym floor is in rough shape. It's got dead spots all over it. I think that had to do with flooding years and years ago, and it's just never recovered from it. You could be bouncing a ball, and then it will just come about halfway up because it'll hit a dead spot on the floor. As the community probably knows, we are having discussions about major upgrades to the football field and possibly the softball field in the concession area. Jay Lilly does a great job with his staff. Everything's always clean. And if we ever do have an issue at a field, and I say, or a light out or whatever, right when I ask him, it's done like that. And then having the field position come back, the field custodial position come back is a huge bonus, because that in the spring and in the fall, they spend their whole time out in the fields, grooming them, lining them, caring for the softball field, which is very under cared for when we didn't have a groundskeeper. And now on to.
Yeah, so just a couple other notes on clubs and activities. Along with sports, we offer a whole bunch of clubs and activities that are open to all students. Most of these are facilitated by Somersworth High School faculty and staff in-house, which is a major plus because teachers build relationships with kids in the classroom and then carry those on after school. We know that kids who are connected with sports or extracurriculars, clubs, and activities will have better outcomes, graduation outcomes, post-secondary outcomes, and we want to give our kids every opportunity to explore and pursue things that they're passionate about, that they're interested in. One thing that's been cool the last couple of years, we do Fun Flex Friday or Somersworth High School Community Days, where we let staff members sort of pick a session and then kids sign up based on interest. And so a lot of our newer clubs or rotating clubs are student-based. That wasn't the right button at all. There we go. I used to be good with technology. I was telling Mike this the other day. I've really taken a dive off the cliff the last couple of years. It happens. Extracurricular offerings, those are all, I think, maybe most of the current ones. Some they happen every year, but others, and I think this is a benefit, a positive, they're based on interest. So we have some language written in the contract that allows for stipends to be paid on an interest basis, on a year-over-year basis. So some of these have come. All of these are in place right now, but like the gaming club, for example, is one that's kind of come and gone. We had one come, crocheting and knitting, a couple of years ago that people were just really interested in, psychology club, and I'm a big fan of that. If we have a group of kids that's interested in doing something, we have the space, we have the people, and more often than not, we have a staff member who's interested in that very thing. Multicultural club, I just want to plug that. Over the last couple of years, 2 or 3, that has really, really taken off. There was an exceptional multicultural night early this year. I think a few of you maybe went to that. And the kids are invested in it. The staff member does a great job, and it really has brought in another portion of the community. And it's a great way to get kids involved who may not want to play a sport or may not fit into the sort of traditional NHS student council. So the more different and varied things we can do for kids, the better we are. Just a few pictures there of some of the great things that our clubs do.
And by the way, if you can go back to that slide, I just learned that was made by a student, Faith Buzzle, to represent the actual actors. So
Really?
that wasn't just like from a script. That was made. She made that to represent Emily Patterson and Sophia Jeffries and Faith Buzzle.
I didn't know that.
In there. So
Oh, that's neat.
yeah, so that's actually them transformed. So that was made by our student.
Wow,
I just
that's
thought that was
talented.
cool.
I had no idea. That's talent.
Right. Last but not least, we knew after-school programming was going to be a little different at the middle school this year, but we wanted to make sure that it was as robust as possible, that students had as many opportunities as possible, because like Chris mentioned, if once they're hooked, and if an after-school activity is an opportunity to get them hooked, then we want to make sure that that's available to our students. So all of the clubs up here are what we offered this year. We reviewed the enrollment of opportunities offered over the last 3 years, and the activities with the highest enrollment over the last 3 years are what we offered this year, in addition to what students said that they wanted to have offered.
Oh, jeez.
How'd you do it?
And is that UNH's volleyball team with our middle school volleyball team? Because that's pretty incredible.
This was the full women's UNH volleyball team.
Yeah.
Came to our girls volleyball game, the whole team.
Such a great picture.
Pretty special. Their star player is a student teacher in our building.
Awesome. Hannah, yep.
And these are just some pictures of our after-school activities. I think that's it. Does anyone have any questions for Coach Hosden?
I have a question. Do Somersworth students have access to the pool in Dover for any reasons? To do swim team or anything like that?
So in the past, we've had a swim team. It really comes and goes with the kids, and we usually, swimming's one of those sports where you can compete as an individual, so you don't have to combine with another school. But in the past, we've gone and practiced with St. Thomas at the Dover pool, and we've had some kids that actually went on and swim in college a few years ago. Actually, it was like 2011. It wasn't much, but we haven't had any swimmers for a little while. But we do have a lot of kids every once in a while that come along and want to do an individual sport, and like we've had some gymnasts and things like that have been successful. But yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, now we're going to move into policy adoption for first read. We have a number tonight for first reading. They'll be up for adoption at our second March meeting. So at first, I'm looking for a motion to read these by title only.
I make a motion to read by title only.
Right, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
yeah, Board Member Brown, please maybe go over your general update for these policies. Thank you.
Just a moment, I have to get the agenda in the same area so I can see. All right, so our first policy for first reading is ACAC, and that is prohibition of sexual harassment policy and grievance procedures. So I've read it by title only. May I, as policy chair, just give a summary?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So, with the January 2025 federal decision finding the amendments in 2024 that the Department of Ed had implemented that affected this policy was found unconstitutional, we had to roll back all of those 2024 additions. Kat is amazing at revising policies, and I don't know what policy committee would do without her. So she created the track change document that is in our packet. So that appears at electronic page 29. While we were in here, we did a little bit of cleanup to have better tracking of authority and delegated authority for discipline, and tied that back to the next policy or another policy, which is JICD. But by and large, the changes here relate to having to back out the 2024 amendments. And that's all I have to say on this one.
Go through the other ones. I mean,
The next policy is library materials selection and adoption. Just find that. I'm just looking for the page number on where it is.
it is on page 52 of our packet. IJL, Library Materials.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. The revisions on this policy, for background, this policy hadn't been reviewed in a while, and so it was time to review it and update it. And where we were referring to the Library Bill of Rights, we included them rather than just refer to them. We actually cut and paste, well, Kat helped cut and paste them all into the policy so they would be insight in mind. So that's that policy. Then the next policy, read by title only, is student discipline and due process. And as I referred to earlier with policy ACAC, this student discipline and due process policy is also letter named JICD. And because we revised it to reference to the code of conduct, and to also, on I think the third page of the policy, again reference the student code of conduct, so that students are put on notice of what conduct can be subject to discipline, so they know where it is. We also are funneling funneling the discipline through this policy, so you're not looking through multiple policies and differing types of discipline and due process, largely. So those were just a couple of changes there to tighten JICD up. The next to read by title only is JLCJ, concussions and head injuries. That appears at page 62 of our electronic packet.
This is a required by law update.
Kat, I'm sorry to have a blank on this, but I'm pretty sure that these were changes in the laws.
Yes, it had been quite a while since we had reviewed this policy, and there were some pretty significant changes that were made in 2020 to this. So we just made sure to update to be in alignment with what those updates were, and also make sure we ran it by the athletic director as well to make sure that we're in line with what we currently are doing in our district.
Thank you very much. The next policy is KEC, reconsideration of instructional materials. Again, just trying to clean the language up. It hadn't been reviewed since 2011, and so it was time to take a look at it. There were references to like selection committee. We now have it as the principal, for instance. So there weren't major changes to that one.
Has this been utilized in our district? We wouldn't, board wouldn't necessarily see it, but there's a form here. Oh, I went to the next one, but.
Well, Form KECR does go to KEC, and the form is designated with R, Request for Reconsideration of Instructional Material. So you're right, there is a form that does come with the policy. I don't know if it's been used.
Not this year? Not this year?
No, yeah.
Okay.
I think also just important to note that the reconsideration of instructional materials, we also made sure to specify adding library materials and library media specialists as part of that as well.
The update, thank you. All right.
And as I will reiterate, we would be lost in policy without Kat's expertise on these. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. All right, those are up for first reading. Thank you for all the work, and we'll see this for adoption at our next school board meeting. New business. So 8.1, the implications of Tuesday, May 6th, special primary election, polling stations at Idlehurst Elementary and Somersworth High School.
So there's two pieces to this that might merit a board vote consideration this evening or at our next board meeting if there'd be more time, if you want more time to think about it. Tuesday, May 6th has been scheduled by the governor as the New Hampshire State Representative District 12 primary election, which will most likely be a very low turnout election. I spoke with the city manager about the possibility of alternative polling stations, not surprisingly, polling stations and voter rights and avoiding anything that looks anything like complications or voter suppression is a pretty main focus right now. So there would be a pretty detailed process involved in particularly switching polling stations. The second question was whether or not we might consider altering the polling setup. And the answer to that is it's also very complicated because there's a set process and a set configuration and that everybody works with. So we could pursue that if we chose to. Keeping in mind, so basically that's the cafeteria at Idlehurst Elementary School and the cafeteria at Somersworth High School. So logistically, taking those spaces out for an election day is pretty complicated. Schools throughout the district over the last decade or two, as we've continued to harden schools and do our best to keep public in general and students separated, and the right to bear arms to a polling station, things along those lines, we tend to err away from doing these on the same day. We've talked about it as an administrative team, and after considering options, we've had 2 snow day cancellations. We could have another or more, depending what happens late winter or early spring. But our recommendation would be that we make this a teacher workshop day. Teacher workshop days are helpful. We would lose a day of instruction, but we have in terms of hours in the state requirement, we can miss 3 days and still fulfill our hourly requirement. I still don't like to cancel a school day, but we're thinking that it probably makes sense to not make this a school day. It's far enough in advance to let families know, and we will make it a very productive staff workday. Connected to this are two things. I'll just kind of give them all to you and answer any questions folks have. Monday, June 16th is the currently scheduled last school day of the year for students and has been from the start. And my recommendation is that remain the case. We meet our state hourly requirement. Even having lost 3 school days, that's the most we can lose. If we do have another school cancellation due to snow, or another election, which the this is a primary. The general election is late June, so that we're safe on that one. We would need to tack on a school day and go till Tuesday, June 17th, or even Wednesday, June 18th.
So we've had 3 snow days.
2 snow days.
Just 2 snow days. Okay, so we're at currently the 17th and 18th would be school days if we tack them on.
They don't need to be. So
Yeah,
we
where
come
the
back-
school board's we have historically been pretty lenient, but those would be the 2 days. But is there another day of a teacher workshop from in April, May, or like June?
We have a teacher workshop day this Friday. And with the snow day, so right now teachers are short 2 contractual days because of 2 snow days. The May 6th being changed from a school day to a teacher workshop day doesn't change anything. And so we would like to add a teacher workshop day to the end of the year after the last day of school. So if the last day of school is on Monday the 16th, or let's say it gets bumped to Tuesday the 17th, we could do it on Tuesday the 17th, or Wednesday the 18th would be a teacher workshop day. Then we bump into Thursday, June 19th, which is a holiday, so it gets complicated with wrapping up and then bumping to a Friday or through a weekend.
Yeah.
So we're proposing that we keep the last day of school where it is right now, add a teacher workshop day to the last day of school. The other thing I want the board to consider is I've worked with Kat on this, and we've talked to the admin team and gotten feedback, and I've talked to SACA. I haven't talked to SAE yet about it, but will, to put required professional development training that is fully accountable and online into basically a 6-hour package. And that would typically be done during teacher workshop time at the beginning of the school year, at the end of the school year. And it's among the things that I hate us to do when we have everybody in a building working collaboratively to go do stuff online like this. To propose that we consider doing one of the contractual days with both unions on board with it. If we have both unions on board with it, the admin team likes the idea. I don't like the idea of stacking up 2 or 3 teacher workshop days at the end of the school year simply to meet contractual obligations that aren't necessarily utilized the way they should be. And I think this would be a better way to do it. And teachers would meet that other contractual day on their own time, and we would have full accountability to know that it's completed.
Okay, so let's go, so May 6th. So for that, let's put that on the agenda for what the end of the school day is, as like kind of a float for more board members to be here, because typically when we have snow days, people add them on. Okay, we're going to school the 17th and the 18th, and then the board can like roll some of those back, kind of get a pulse of where things are at, but they usually just add them, so everyone who I talk to is like, okay, June 18th is our last day of school. So we'll see with that, and then the board can vote to take that out of, we kind of, can work with that within the hours. May 6th, the recommendation is to not have school that day, but there's no shifting of a current day of teacher workshop in April or June to not have it that day, but to have it May 6th, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right, so it's just, would it be an extra
Unless
one?
we did this Friday, which is too
No,
short a notice.
no, yeah.
For both sides, both for getting kids into school and for redoing it.
And there's just no other place that we can, I mean, I called the Secretary of State, there's 3 people on the ballot. If there was only one, we really wouldn't have we may have had more room, but there's 3 people on the ballot, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can discuss it at another meeting. I think it's kind of like the illusion of choice, right? Like, we can't, I'm not sure to what extent we can.
Oh, which part?
Even like kind of voting on it, right? Like we have a choice, but our choice is like to change polling locations, which is really not a choice. So
The only thing I was thinking of, like, is there a space? Do we have any space that's locked off from other, like locking off the gym at Idlehurst or locking off some other part, like, but it's so complicated with it. I know and then the turnout will probably be very not significant with folks, but,
To be clear, though, we do. So we were looking at the black box.
oh, okay.
As a potential in the high school, and we were looking at using the gym instead of the cafeteria at Idlehurst.
Oh, okay.
Before the city manager let me know, no, even that kind of
Changing.
level of logistics, they have like a really fine-tuned machine that says, this is how we set up, this is where we set up, this is where you come in, this is where the signs are, a lot of volunteers involved for the day. And so we could pursue it, but it would be a lot of meetings and a lot of deliberation that would start getting pretty close to May 6th and not a clear outcome.
Yeah.
that's what I meant by like, it's the illusion of choice. I
Oh,
think.
right. Okay, so I think that it would be better for the community to know about this sooner than later. I know we're a small board and this is new business and it's typically another one. I think that we can look at our schedule in the end of the year in a future meeting. We usually do that anyways. But to change May 6th to a teacher workshop day, no school day, I think that's the motion for right now. And yeah, hopefully it's a beautiful day and everyone has a great day that day, but it's beyond our control. So I'm looking for a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to make May 6th a teacher workshop day, no school day.
I motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to make May 6th a no school day, a teacher workshop day.
Great. Second?
I second.
All right. Any discussion? Nope. All in favor? Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. We can communicate that out. I think we've had a couple of changes, but that's good.
Is the prospect of doing a contractual teacher workshop day via online professional development, the proposal acceptable to the board and something you'd want to vote on to endorse if we were to choose to do it, or are we good to proceed on that with the unions?
I think it's a discussion with personnel and I think that it's not really a board, like, and it's really your own.
Sure.
I believe so. What do we think? I don't think it's, unless it's like, goes against the contract in any way. I think it's just a discussion on that general agreeance. We just kind of change it or say, no, we have to have it in the gym or, because we want to have a day. But it's unfortunate since it's such a small election, and other, Dover and Rochester, they don't have to vote on this day, but they use most of their schools for polling locations as well. So, whatever works with everyone makes people.
And I don't think we would do it more than once. I think in terms of the importance of teachers being together for teacher workshop day, when we have cancellations and snow days at play, to know that we've got this in our pocket as a good, serious, fully accountable PD that needs to be done. If the unions are on boards, I think makes a lot of sense.
Like remote learning for their, okay. Then we're-
And a teacher workshop day at the end of the school year, I think is always.
I think that we can bake that in. I think that, again, that's an agreement. I think it's tough to have your last day of school, the last day of school for everyone. I just don't know how that's possible for educators and people to like do everything in one day. I think last year when they had an extra day, it was helpful. All right, 8.2, our proposed pre-K identified students.
Chairperson,
yeah.
is there any chance we could amend the agenda to let the nice gentleman who wants to give the school money
Oh, for the next one,
maybe
yes.
go?
Yes, we would
Okay.
make a friendly amendment to
Yes.
have. Okay, so let's call this.
Thanks.
Let's call this. Is it the Somersworth, Mr. Witham, if you would come up, alumni donation, and yeah, Katie, if you can kind of just give us the overview.
Dave pretty much gave it to you already. It's a donation in the amount of $7,901.65 with the intent to use it for SHS gym improvements, including a new scoreboard.
In the gym?
Yes.
And will it say donated by the Somersworth High School Alumni Association? Yeah.
I think that's the pleasure of the Alumni Association, yes.
Okay. And then we just need to vote to accept it?
You just need to accept the
Okay,
funds.
I make the
yes.
motion to vote to accept the generous donation of $7,901.65. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. We'll be getting-
Thank you for waiting.
That's great.
You shouldn't have given us the check this afternoon. We would have put you in front of the agenda.
Thank you. All right. All right. Our proposed pre-K identified students tuition agreement with Rollinsford. It is new business. I'd like to have this be new business, but if there's any questions or clarification from board members at this time, it'll be on our next agenda for kind of adoption and discussion.
I was going to start.
Oh, yeah.
Or did you want to say more?
Nope, that's just.
Katie. I think what Katie and I would be looking for tonight, just to be clear, is just a potential board vote to enter into discussions and talks with Rollinsford about this, not to say this is the contract, let's do it. We'd come back. So that would be a separate step to actually approve a contract if we get to that point. This agreement would be a one-year agreement for the 2025-2026 school year with the Rollinsford School District, SAU 104, to allow their identified pre-K students, only identified students, not unidentified pre-K students, to allow their identified pre-K students to attend preschool at Idlehurst Elementary School. We're proposing for the 2-day-a-week program, $2,600 a year to cover our costs of running the program. We're suggesting for the 4-day-a-week program, $5,000 per year, to cover the costs of the program. Special education services and costs incurred by the students that are in the program from Rollinsford are paid separately for the cost of those services, so they cover those. So it is fundamentally a break-even proposal for us. A reminder that the pre-K program is focused on serving identified students with learning disabilities early on. MSAD 35 in Maine, the school district for South Berwick and Elliott, will be providing special education services for Rollinsford effective July 1. That used to be SAU 56. So MSAD 35 would be responsible for the child find element of this, which is promoting to doctors' offices and families and everybody else that if you have a student that you suspect may have a disability, or a doctor might notice at a pediatrician in an office visit, they will handle the process of working with the family and working with the student and making the referral and determining whether or not they are qualified for the program. And they would work collaboratively with us, our staff at the preschool, towards the tail end of that to make sure we're comfortable with them coming in. And lastly, just a reminder, the pre-K program, by design, although the focus is on identified pre-K students, the spirit is inclusion, so the state looks for a 50-50 mix of identified students and unidentified students. And we have a waiting list of Somersworth families of unidentified students. Identified students get in no matter what. We have a waiting list of Somersworth unidentified students. So just to be clear, if there are 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 Rollinsford identified students in the program, they will never take a spot from an identified Somersworth student, and they will actually create 6 or 7 or 8 or 9 more spots for Somersworth unidentified students because of the need for a 50-50 balance. That would have looked really nice in a graph or a chart, I hope that, but anyway, just to be, because I know that is an issue, making sure that we serve Somersworth families and take care of Somersworth needs first. It's also a possibility that the students could receive these services at Rollinsford Grade School with existing staff there. Your superintendent and business administrator will talk to the 104 superintendent and business administrator and their board about all of these possibilities in the next week or two, and bring back a potential agreement. I think that's everything.
I have kind of an odd concern. If Rollinsford is creating their own SAU, or they already have an SAU?
They're already their own school district, but they've been their own school district for almost 5 years now, but they've contracted with SAU 56 for central office services.
Okay. Here's my question, concern, and maybe it's a moot point. Is the argument here that we're identifying students under Maine or New Hampshire special education law and then sending them to a New Hampshire program. Like I would need to know which one we're doing because that's an odd kind of barrier. And I'm just curious if we've looked at other states because they're potentially different criteria. And I'm not sure if it's that MSAD 35 is identifying them or contracting staff to help the Rollinsford district identify the students.
It's a good question. MSAD 35 has a New Hampshire special education certified individual that will be overseeing special education for the Rollinsford kids that travel to Maine, and they have legal advice that once those New Hampshire kids travel to Maine, they could follow Maine special education law or New Hampshire education law. My understanding for the Rollinsford kids that are in Rollinsford that sign up for our pre-K program, MSAD 35 would administer the child fine based on New Hampshire special education law. But that really rests with
great.
it rests with SAU 104 and MSAD 35.
Okay. Okay.
That was a lot at 8:30 at night on a Tuesday.
No,
Yeah,
that
good.
helps, and I'm glad that someone thought of it. So that's cool. Love it.
Yeah, I think it's fine I think it's a general agreement to start communication, and then when the contract's kind of more whole and ready to come to the board, it comes to the board, and yep. Well, overall, good. Yeah, good. No old business, future meeting dates. Our next meeting is March 25th. We'll have more board members here. I may ask for like well, we'll get through budget first and then we can figure out, we can bring in new board members. I was going to speak about more of a communication out to the community about open positions and kind of just general communications in general, but we can do that at the next meeting. Any comments by visitors this evening? Comments by my amazing quorum of board members? Any comments for anything? No. I am planning to go to Concord tomorrow to testify for the budget. Very succinctly, but to have adequate coverage for education. I just feel very passionate about that voices need to be heard, and it's just, I think I have some optimism. I don't know if that's loose, but I think we will feel the impact. I think we just don't know the impact of our severe cuts yet. I think we have a great school district. I think we have a lot of positives and things to champion, but we do have some significant cuts that we're considering for next year. So I would ask for people to advocate before it happens. Non-public, 13.1 personnel, year-end resignations and retirements pursuant to 91A32B. Do I have a motion to go into non-public?
I'll make a motion to go into non-public pursuant to RSA 91A:3, Roman 2B.
For personnel.
For personnel.
Yep.
Second.
All right, great. Can I have a roll call, please?
Maggie Larson?
Yes.
Marcia Brown?
Yes.
Bridget Jamison?
Yes.
Carly Prescott?
Yes, thank you. Thank you all. Thank you. Good night.